Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Known as Perfect podcast. Today, we are going to talk about an archetype called the mother. We, as a collective, everyone has had a mother because that's how we're created, is through a mother's womb. Everyone's been a child. So, the experience of the archetype of mother, we all have. So we can all agree on that. How different those experiences are is the conversation. So it's really about understanding today how this mother archetype, we're going to talk about the gifts and shadows of the mother archetype, like control and exhaustion and martyrdom, and also love and nurturing and holding with boundaries. And I really want to be clear as we begin that if you don't have children, this mother archetype still exists in a different way because you came from a mother. So it's relationship with your mother and also relationship with things that you create, that you protect, that you care for. So please know that we're all a collective when it comes to mother.
Mm-hmm.
So as we begin, welcome, Marty. Good to see you again.
You too, Christy.
This is a big subject.
It is. It's massive.
It is. And as I was contemplating it this morning, I was thinking about my own mothering as a young mother and how confusing it was for me to want to do it so perfectly that in my obsession and anxiety for perfection, I became extremely controlling because I didn't want to do it wrong. It's so laughable to me today, and I feel bad for my children. My intentions were really good, and yet I didn't have the understanding or skill set to be flexible with my mothering.
Oh, yeah, I so know this, Christy, because I was a voracious vegan before I got pregnant with my daughter, and then I was so sick through the entire pregnancy. Finally, a Slurpee was the thing that actually calmed my stomach. So, like pure sugar. And it's so funny how, like you, I had this idea like, oh, I'm a vegan and this and that. I became known as the Kool-Aid mom.
Oh, in that you're drinking Kool-Aid or you're giving Kool-Aid?
Giving Kool-Aid, basically Kool-Aid like stuff. Like all that vegan stuff went out the window, and I was like, I'm a flailing mother here. I'm just gonna do whatever. I mean, I did feed some healthy food, but still, it was like, I mean, I had a couple of people like my neighbors, like, you're like the Kool-Aid mom, and I was just like, yeah, pretty much.
Reminds me of
And
old Kool-Aid
like
commercials.
I ate more crow.
After
I
you
was at a
had,
banquet table gobbling up crow. Like, oh my God.
was it because you had judgment around people who weren't vegans?
No, I had just judgment about people in general before I ever became a mom. And I'd be like, oh, and then you're a mom and you're like, oh my God.
It is that it's daunting.
It's so daunting. It's so
Yeah.
daunting. So every judgment I had about things like flew out the window. That's why, I mean, I was like, I ate so much crow. I was like,
Well,
yeah,
because you think you know.
yeah,
I think that's probably the biggest thing is, yeah, the judgment is there of,
yeah,
and I think whether you have a child or not, we all tend to do, well, if it were my kid, I
yeah,
would blank.
yeah.
My kid would never act like that, or
Oh God.
such a natural thing to project our own judgment towards other
Oh,
people around mothering.
right. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. And even with people who don't have children,
yep.
I would ask you to see where in your life that you over mother. That could be a pet, that could be a creation, that could be a friend or your nieces and nephews. Where does that mothering come in, which is can be over caring, over nurturing for someone. It can be a healer aspect in us. And I think it's important too, as we begin to notice those, going back into time of our own mother, how, and asking ourselves, how was that for you with your mother? Because so much of our experiences and our beliefs come from mother.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would say, Marty, for me, having children, I hope to God my children could give me compassion for my mothering. And it's made it so much easier for me to give my mother compassion
Yeah. Oh,
and
it's so
understanding.
true. It's so true. It's same for me. I mean, my mom's been like gone a long time, as has my father, but I definitely see things where I think about what my mom, and I know pretty severe things my mom went through. And I'm like, oh wow. Like how she how'd you deal with that? Like,
Yeah.
and like you and I talked about, like even in my own daughter, I'm like, send me the therapy bills.
Oh, yeah, because mothering is challenging.
Yeah. And I love your point, Christy, too, because it's we don't want to limit it to if you actually gave birth to a child. There's so much. Like I have 7 animals. I'm a mother to these animals. And
Mhm.
and like you said, a project, a business, your partner, you can be like mothering too. You can mother people that work under you if you're a manager, or like even if you're coworkers. There's just so people, like you said, creations, your business. There's so many ways we can do that, both positively and not so positively. And that's why I love, like, as you're going to talk about the mothering archetype, it's so good for people to know that, because you might recognize yourself. And
Yeah. And in that recognition, and remember with archetypes, just a reminder, they're neutral.
right.
Each archetype has the aspect of light and shadow. Shadow representing the parts of us that we can't see. Like when I first started to mother, I was very controlling. I had the schedule because I was going to do it right, and
Oh,
I laughed because then it wasn't working. My
oh,
kids weren't minding me, and I remember listening to a parenting CD because I didn't know what to do. And I asked my son Cole, I said, and he was probably 7 or 8. We're driving home from school. And I said, okay, Cole, I want to ask you a question. It's okay, whatever you tell me, which obviously he's going. And I said, do you think I'm controlling? And he said, I am so not going to answer that question, Mom.
and there you have your answer.
Exactly. And then we drove a little ways. I said, honey, I'm not going to get upset with you. I'm trying to learn how to be a better mom.
Mm.
I'm working on myself because one thing about my mothering is, as I learned, I would tell my children, I'm learning. Could you please help me in a nice way when I become too controlling?
Yeah.
And we joked about it because I said, you could even say a code word like watermelon, which for me would be, Mom, you're overstepping.
Yeah, I like that. I like the
Because
code.
then it's not disrespectful to me as their mother.
Right.
But I was working on my control issues, which come from anxiety and fear of doing it wrong. And so understanding that archetypal piece, I didn't know what I didn't know until I started learning that shadow aspect of my control came from anxiety.
That is the most important thing too, Chrissy. I think, like, you didn't know what you didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. And then when I knew it, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense why I behave that way.
Yeah.
And that brings empathy and understanding. Like you said, then we think of our own mothers, and then you're like, whoa, what was that like for her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most important aspects of understanding your mother and giving grace for your mothering, however that is.
Yes. Oh, grace, right? Just Oh, I mean, I could go on and on about this, like culturally, how women are under so much pressure, in
Mhm.
the mothering field, and how it's like, no, compassion. It's to me, it's the most important thing you can do. Meaning, and I was a working mom, and but I think in anything like that, like if you're starting your business and your business is your baby, that
Yeah.
is literally going to be the most important thing to you.
Mhm.
And I think coming back to compassion for ourselves for the ways that we fall short is so important. So, and it's not taught a lot.
No, it
Like
isn't.
from starting a business to whatever, it's like rah rah, like make it happen, and you're gonna do this, and then you're like, why is this not happening for me? And then
Mhm.
you end up feeling terrible about yourself. And I think that, like you to your point, like embracing the shadow part of us, because we all have it,
Mhm.
and making friends with that and being like, well, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
the best thing that ever happened for me from like mothering a business and mothering my daughter, was when I woke up from the nightmare and was like, oh, no wonder, no wonder I behave that way.
Yeah.
That was genuine compassion then. Yeah.
And that's where tapping for you came in.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming like when you noticed the pattern, the shadow aspect, to forgive yourself and talk through it and understand what they're like little hooks or slivers
Yes.
of guilt, of shame, of control that kind of eat away at us until
Yeah.
we can go, yeah, I totally get that I was a control freak.
Yeah.
And I also understand why.
Yeah.
That's the moving in and out of, and I don't even like, it's not a matter of getting rid of or healing it or making it go
Right.
away. It's a
It's
matter, I think, of living with what, okay, here's all the aspects of it. Let's work with that. And
yeah.
because it's a dynamic process.
Right. Right. It's so true. And I do find that, like, even my sense of humor comes out more. I was talking to my daughter. There's a young woman who I would like, when she talks to me, like she has this kind of idealized version of me. And I was telling my daughter this, and I mean, she's a lovely human being, a young gal. And I was like, wow, where did this like come from? This feeling that she has towards me. I'm like, do I remind her of someone? But my daughter was laughing hysterically, because I'm like, okay, Bailey, next time, like if you're around, listen to how like she talks to me. I go, you will literally be like, is she talking about the same person? And we were just laughing about that, because it's that, like Bailey knows me,
Yeah.
as a mother, and she knows like,
Mm,
yeah. And I love that we can laugh about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Marty, as a mother, that you've done a lot of work
Yes.
because I believe that as a mother, you have to, it's required to do some work to be able to laugh at it
Oh my God. Yes.
and not blame.
Right. Oh, punishment before, it was like mea
Huge.
culpa, mea culpa. I'm a horrible human, a horrible person. And
Yeah.
then it's like now I can think back, and that's how I know a lot of it is healed, because I've gone through it. And even, talking to my daughter about she has such a different perspective now. And and even then she was like, Mom, I didn't even see it that way. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah. And having a conversation, Marty, so many times as I've learned something or healed something, I'll say to my boys, I'm so sorry I did that.
right.
And they will have the same response of, Mom, I totally get it. And how I um shamed myself about it was way
Yeah.
worse than what my kids ever thought of too.
Yeah.
And that sounds like the same with your daughter Bailey.
Oh yeah, very much so. And I think even my parents, who were born in the 20s, and I'm the youngest, like there was no like, hey, I'm sorry I behaved that way with you. Like you didn't hear that from parents in my generation. It's like,
No.
as I say, not as I do, be seen, not heard. And I like you, I want her to know, oh, I've seen this, and I have a stepdaughter too, and I feel the same way about that. I want her to know, you know, I see these things about myself.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Gabor Mate, who has done so much work in trauma, and I so love his phrase that he came up with that I've heard through him. Maybe he didn't come up with it, but not what's wrong with you, what happened to you.
Oh, yes. Great
That's
phrase.
so
Yeah.
powerful,
What happened?
especially when we're experiencing a shadow aspect of
Yes.
the mothering archetype, like even the someone who's really controlling and smothering to the point that it's almost like consuming
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
project, like you said, or
Yeah.
a child, a sibling. And that's really where that question comes through, is what happened,
Oh, absolutely.
because we replicate what happened.
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, that I love that line too. Yeah, what happened to you? Because that's for me too, as I tapped through different experiences where I was like shaming myself for it. I couldn't even talk about it, without the fluttering voice. And now I could tell anyone the story. It was just this awakening, and we call it a cognitive shift in tapping. Like all of a sudden you see it clearly. Like I was like, oh, no wonder. Of course I did that. How could I have done it any other way
Yeah.
given like the upbringing that I had? There's no way I could have done it differently, and
Yeah.
that's self-compassion, you know.
And that's what helps our bodies somatically
Yeah.
quit contracting.
Yes.
And you had talked about, and I'm curious, in some of our other podcasts, that you used to have skin issues. Did you ever notice that when you were raising your child, of that coming and going? I'm just curious.
No, it's funny. I noticed it at a very early age, and then I didn't notice that so much when I was mothering, like my daughter. I don't remember that, but it always seemed to show up in times of great stress
Mm-hmm.
around that. And yeah, it's interesting. That's a really, really great question. Yes, I don't actually, I had other stuff that showed up physically when I was mothering, but
What other thing stands out that you remember?
like what's funny, I've always had people ask me, are you not prone to headaches? Like tight, like super tight neck and shoulders, to the point that I was like, and I don't have that now. But I think all that, and on my shoulders, the weight that I was carrying us, and ultimately I ended up being a single mom,
Yeah.
for a while. So it was like the weight of that. And here's the other thing that I would say, probably more than like is just my anxiety was through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And not not really having someone to talk to about that. Like it was such a breath of fresh air when, the first person that I could talk to about stuff around that and be like, oh, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Because again, culturally, there's so much pressure on women around mothering and being the perfect mother. And give me a break.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I don't care what anyone says. No one is the perfect mother. And even I was talking to a young woman who's a new mom too, and she was actually talking about a rash that her child had. And I mean, she's like pristine with this child's diet, like utterly pristine. And we were having a conversation about it, and I said, it kind of like, imagine me saying this to her. She was like, kind of sounds like you maybe need to let go of your grasping a bit about, I've got to be the perfect mother, have the perfect diet, like
Mm-hmm.
loosen the grip a little bit. And she was like, oh my God, that feels so true. She
Yeah.
was trying so hard to be pleasing and to, please herself and her own standard or wherever that came up for her, that she had to be this way. Like, that's pressure. And interesting that this rash was showing up on her child.
Yeah. And my brain wants to go, where was the rash?
The bottom of the feet,
Bottoms of the feet.
bottoms of the feet, and then kind of up the calves.
Yeah. So,
And different parts of the body, actually.
okay.
Yeah.
Because sometimes too, like I've worked on hundreds of babies, newborn babies. And what I noticed through the years, and my own mother has worked on probably thousands of newborn babies.
Yeah.
And what we have noticed is when a mother holds herself to that high expectation of perfection, it can go into the baby in different ways. Like
Oh,
sometimes the baby can feel anxious because mother's anxious.
so yeah, that makes so much sense.
Right. And the please no big loud here doesn't mean you did anything
Yeah,
as a
nothing
mother.
wrong here. It's no,
No,
right.
but it's an understanding that even a baby that is grown in your womb is grown within your own nervous system.
Oh yeah,
That
that's what
matters.
I was telling my daughter. Oh, I'm so sorry of all the stress you experienced in vitro.
Yes, because that's life happens.
Yeah, yeah,
And from a little human perspective,
right.
everything is around mother
Yeah,
and or not.
right.
Like if a mother is neglectful or a child is neglected,
Yeah,
that's really where a lot of these imprints start happening. And it's almost like feeling lost in a great big world. And sometimes it takes years to find the path back to how to mother ourselves, how to get in
right.
touch with, like, if there's been neglect, how the beginning pieces of that journey is that how do I begin to do the process of mothering myself and not
Yeah.
waiting for a mother figure,
Oh, right.
my mother come and meet my needs.
Right. The reparenting of the self. And I see that in myself, like, hey, baby, you didn't do anything wrong when I talk to myself that way. And it's funny, Chrissy, I never put that, which is kind of hilarious. That like with the mother, of course, like when Bailey was in vitro, there was so much stress in my life going on. And then I think about when I was in vitro and in my mom's womb, they were having to make the decision about my sister and a brain tumor when my
Yeah.
mom was pregnant with me. So you're like, and then you're like, of course the baby's absorbing it. But I didn't even think about that with this young woman that I was talking to about the rash on her baby, because, she was, of course, judging herself and making herself
Yeah.
feel like she's doing everything right. And yet still this is happening. And to be like, oh, yeah, of course, maybe that's what the baby's picking up on is the stress that the mom's putting herself under, because, you know, that's what we do. That's our culture. It's
Yeah.
interesting because I've had the interesting fortune of talking to a couple of young women recently who are new mothers. And it's like, giving on my perspective, it's like this is like one of the most challenging things you will ever do in your
Mhm.
entire life, ever.
Yeah.
Break. There's not like CEOs get breaks, like that. This is like on, and then all the guilt and the shame and the pressure and the this. And I just think and culturally, it's horrible the messaging that women get. And it's like I just think that's the best gift we can give each other and ourselves is compassion,
Yeah.
and awareness of like, well, of course I'm doing that. Of course that's happening, making yourself wrong, because you have moments where you're like, I love my kid, but I want to break.
Yeah.
Hello.
And giving yourself the space to want to be away from them,
Yes.
to want to literally take a break and a breath and
Yeah.
not feeling guilty about that, because we've all seen put your oxygen mask on
Yes.
first. And then one of the shadow aspects of this mother is martyr.
Oh,
right? Well, no, I need to do it on them. They need it more. And then what happens when we continue to be the martyr mother
Yeah.
is resentment builds.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there's a moment when a mother either thinks or will say, after all that I've done for you,
Oh, Lord.
right? And then the
Yeah.
manipulation happens. That's also an aspect
Yeah.
of us as mothers in whatever way that is to
Yeah.
do our own work so we don't project
Right.
our guilt or martyrdom
Yeah.
onto others.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know that for myself too. Even ultimately ended up a single mom, like being like, I have got to find a way to have time for myself, and to be able to ask for that was like, unreal. And it's funny, a story popped in my head. I was out one night with a girlfriend of mine, and we were talking to these other guys. We were all like single parents, which was interesting. And I made this comment, and I said, I love my daughter, but sometimes she drains me. That's literally what I said. And Chrissy, the guy across the table from me, goes, "You are weak." Like that. And I mean, I was like, what? And it was so funny because he was so harsh. It's actually astonishing, like that I was like, what is this about? That I wasn't devastated by what he said. I mean, I didn't like it. It wasn't pleasant, but I was like, what? Like that. I was so shocked by him saying that. Well, guess what I find out? He has a live-in nanny.
Ah, that's a very different scenario, isn't it?
I was like, okay, yeah, okay. I think I'm not going to listen to what you have to say about me.
Well, and
And
I
I
will,
have a live-in nanny. I am the nanny.
yeah. And I also think that someone that sees that as a weakness, because
Yeah,
what you just expressed was vulnerability and got attacked for that vulnerability,
yeah, yeah.
which I think that's probably more of the weakness of that would be that's a whole other issue that just was
Right.
projected onto you.
Yeah, it was so wild. And I remember thinking, I'm like, he must think this about his ex. Like,
Well, I'm sure, and
there was
probably about
something
his own
there.
mother.
But yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I still obviously remember the experience, but then I was like, he has a live-in, and I think it was his buddy that said to me when they were leaving, he goes, he has a live-in nanny. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that brings up a good point, Christy. It's like that whole term, consider the source.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I get advice from people, or even as a mother, like when I was a mom, yeah, it was like, read this book and be militant. And I thank God I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And now, having taken trauma classes, I'm so glad that I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I couldn't make her cry herself to sleep. That's what happened to me. And I have abandonment issues. Shocker. But it was like, I just, it's so, and it was so hard because I have these authorities telling me that's what I should do. And I was like, I couldn't do it. And let me tell you, it was a free for all for me. And I will tell this story publicly because I think it's really important. I had to get to work, and my daughter was very young. And Christy, I put that child on my lap, and I got in my car, and I
Mm-hmm.
drove with her on my lap, started to drive with her on my lap to the daycare. And thank God a cop pulled me over. And that guy, I mean, he
Mm.
reamed me. And I mean, I knew it was wrong. Like I was so overwhelmed and
Yeah.
under so much pressure. And thank God he saw me like right away and pulled me. He goes, "You have no idea the stuff I've seen and all that." And I'm telling you, I know I wouldn't have done it again, but I was like, I want people to know that story because I trust me. There's people like, "How could you do that?" and blah blah blah. And
Yeah.
I get it. But I remember that day so distinctly. I had to be at the office as a certain amount. It was super challenging what was going on with my daughter. She didn't want to go to daycare. She was young. I was feeling all that guilt and all that
Yeah.
shame about it. And then it was like, I'm just going to give her a gift of being on my lap. And I mean, can I look at that and go, that was insanity? Yeah, in some level. And it was also the other side of it, to have compassion, is I was so overwhelmed. I was just trying to do something to give my daughter like some love and kindness in a very maladaptive way. And I am so grateful to that guy. And I think for me, it's important to share that story, because anybody like one that's out there judging themselves, like, just remember that story. And you might be like, you know what? Maybe I'm not that bad as a mom.
I think that's a really good example, Marty,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we have all done,
Yeah.
I think everyone that's ever raised a child knows that
Yeah.
feeling,
Yeah. Right.
especially when the overwhelm gets high. Whether you're working or not working, it happens both in
Yeah.
both circumstances. And
Yeah.
the shoulds of, all, I should love this, I should blank. With the
Yeah.
mother archetype, that is such a key phrase to pay attention to. I should blank.
Oh, Lord. Right.
That's really some beautiful work that can be done too.
Right. And I call that the bully in the brain. The bully's like, sounds rational, sounds reasonable. You should, but you know it's the bully because you feel terrible about yourself. I should
Yeah.
do that, but I can't. And actually, Christy, another quick story. I ran into a woman when I was out mountain biking. This story was all over like the Albuquerque papers years ago. She ran into a convenience store and left her child in the car seat to run grab something on the way to daycare. The car got carjacked.
Oh,
Well, they found the car and they found the baby, and she was fine. And it's so funny that I ran into that woman when I was out mountain biking. She told me. And I was like, I have no judgment about you, because like
I
I've
don't
done
either.
stuff, and like I get it. And I think it's, those, the story of the father that never took the child to daycare, but on the day he was taking, he forgot and left her in the car, and
Yeah,
the child died.
I
So it's
remember
like,
that.
I can see that. I
Yeah.
can see how that could happen. And I think it's just like, yeah, it's like, in those instances, there's just so much pressure. And it's just like, how can I, like, you're the great word, how can I give myself some grace with this? I'm not getting a break. I'm completely overwhelmed. This child that I love him even more than when they're sleeping, because he
Yes.
actually can kind of get stuff done. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But again, our culture's like, be the perfect mom and have it all like wrapped up and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh, stick a fork in me. I'm done.
Yeah. Because it's not real.
Yeah.
It's
Not,
not real. And
no.
I think, I really believe that that's partly why we're such a medicated culture, is because that anxiety of needing it to be perfect, or whatever the hell perfect means,
Yeah.
mothering and anxiety, and also medication to not fall asleep during the day because you were up all night with your kid.
Oh,
Right? It's such a cycle of challenging things
yeah.
with that, with mothering. And even I'm going to just turn a little bit with, as an example, for like sometimes an older sister of a family can be mother
Oh, yeah.
and never step out of that mothering role. And sometimes it's a different kind of shadow, in that they can be an overgiver to the point that they neglect themselves as
Absolutely.
a mother archetype within the family structure, to take care of the siblings underneath them. And how important it is, if that's you, to be able to step back and understand that, number one, that isn't your role. But if you tend to be the overgiver in the relationships within that system of family, that would be an aspect of shadow,
Yeah.
of mothering, over giving, over nurturing, to fill a void somewhere in you. What is that?
Yeah.
and
Right.
or over mothering people at work.
Oh, right.
And it's, it's an in and out and back and forth of, okay, how is this showing up?
Yeah.
And sometimes I think too, Marty, and I've been in my practice a long time, and as have you. And sometimes there's such a high level of guilt or shame around looking at some of the wounds of your mother and how you were mothered.
Right. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I think that that would be, I don't know how to say it. It's a good place to start to ask yourself, how did I feel as a kid? What did I notice when my mother was anxious or not? Or did I notice? Do I remember being a kid?
Right. Yeah.
Because we can't uncover these aspects of us until we go back to where that really began
Yeah.
within the structure of mother.
Yeah. And it's so true, Christy. When I work with people with tapping, it's amazing. The first hurdle we typically have to overcome is the guilt and shame that they feel about the disappointments they've had with their parents.
Yeah.
And so it's like, let's work through that so that you can give that child in you the voice that they need to say whatever they need to say. You don't have to walk up to your parents and say that.
No.
Like back to Adam and Eve, as they say, we could go all the way back, but it's to give yourself your truth about that, because that's, and it to me, and when you tap on that, that's what sets you free. And that's what set me free with both my parents is when I let myself, rant tap on like, you sucked and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like going, worst parents ever, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And then all of a sudden I was like, I don't feel that way now because I've released this stuff that has been stuck in me forever. And I finally gave it a voice. And I finally reparented that child within me and said, here's your truth. And now you get to have it. The thing that so many of us didn't get, you know, it's more
And
about,
voicing it,
yeah.
like you said, voicing it is huge.
Oh, it's massive because it helps you to feel more fully,
Mhm.
which is like releasing.
Yeah.
And then the emotions move through you rather
Yes.
than stay stuck and like, oh, no wonder I have road rage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's those aspects of us, they don't go away, even
Oh,
though sometimes in our heads we will I think we try in general, humans try to intellectualize it so much and then it gets put away in the body.
yeah. We think our feelings rather than feel them.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it's a funny thing, we humans,
Yes.
because we're in an age now like our parents wouldn't have talked about their feelings and their parenting. We're in a new age of, okay, here we are. Let's talk about parenting and what it felt like so we don't recreate it
Right.
with others.
Yeah.
But it does require us to look at our own pieces around it.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. Yeah.
and I think of my sister Effie, who we'll have on the podcast. She's a mother of a child that has a genetic disorder that's been really, really challenging.
Oh,
And one of the biggest things that she has come to know is that if she doesn't take care of herself, she can't take care of her son.
wow. That's such a great thing to know.
Well, and the challenge with that is there's so much judgment from others that that's her stance.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. Like yeah, yeah. The best line I ever heard: "Children's needs are best met by parents whose needs are met."
I love that. Yes.
And yeah, yeah. There's so much, and that's what I. This other young woman that I was talking to, and I was finally telling her I was a free for all, and telling her about like my mothering, and she was like, oh, this makes me feel so much better because every day I talk to, I always say it's butterfly farts and fairy farts and everything is beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's a challenge. It's a massive challenge. And it's, but of course you're supposed to be the perfect mother. Yeah. And it's
which
like,
is laughable.
right,
It
right.
is laughable because
It's, yeah,
we're so human.
yeah. And I also think of that with our children. To me, you give them the best gift you could ever give them by showing them your humanity and by showing them I've got this humanity and here's how I'm dealing with it.
Yeah,
That's a
so
great
true.
gift. Yeah.
Well, it teaches, I think it teaches our children we're human and we can grow.
Yes.
It models for them a way as we look at our own stuff, just like my question with Cole, am I controlling? I knew I was controlling, but it helps to have the conversation because it was a learning process that
Right.
I could talk about those things
Yeah.
and not be held in shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's work on that together. I think that's how healing happens with
I
kids.
love it. It's like, God, Chrissy, that's, he's like, I'm not even going to answer that. And like the time I said to my daughter, I'm like, I had no idea I was so anxious. Christy, she was literally like, what? Come again? You had no idea you were anxious? She's like, what? And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, I am. And I didn't, I mean, it's funny that I didn't see myself that way, which is amazing because now I'm like, oh my God, I'm riddled with it. But it was
yeah.
like, it was just, she was just like, what? Do I burst your bubble of like you're not anxious? So funny. And I remember we just started laughing about it because I'm like, oh, I am. Little bit, little bit.
Oh, and I love that we can laugh about it, Marty,
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah.
because yeah, you kind of have to because there's
Yeah.
been many moments of crying.
Oh yeah. And self, flagellation. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Horrible mother. Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not helpful
No. No.
because we're here to nurture. And I'm thinking, Marty, it'd be nice to do just a little tiny bit of tapping on
Yeah.
mothering self.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Could we
love
do a
it.
little bit of that? And then we can
Absolutely.
um give people some resources, whether they have a child or not. We all
Right.
are about mothering self and taking care of self.
We all have to reparent ourselves. And I always tell people it's really helpful if you find a picture of yourself that resonates with you. It can be a couple pictures at a particular age. Then sometimes initially you can just connect with that picture of yourself and it really helps you like viscerally get in touch with the little child. So, yeah, so let's go to the karate chop.
Okay.
Even though we all have an inner child and we all have a wounded child within. What if I could connect with my wounded child now? Even though I have a child within me that's riddled with expectations, riddled with guilt and shame, never really feeling quite good enough. I choose to honor this part of me now. Even though that child within me really wants to be heard, really tries to get my attention. Sometimes through big events, sometimes through little ones. What if I can start to connect with that part of me now? Go to the eyebrow. My child gets activated. What if that's good to know? When I catch myself in big emotions, big energy, what if that's an indication? my inner child is activated and is trying to get my attention. Because that child really needs to be heard. And what if I could start practicing being present with my inner child, learning how to reparent that inner child, and letting that child know, I see you, I feel you, I hear you, and I'm here for you now. Take a breath.
And as you do the tapping to bring in the somatic aspects of the body, which is to notice any clenching or holding in your base, like around your hips and your groin. That's where a lot of childhood issues are held, and contracting really tight without noticing you're contracting. So as you do the tapping and take a deep breath to really relax your tush, your groin, and your legs, that is in somatic work, the base chakra, which is the energy parts in the body that hold memory for childhood, for tribal systems and culture. And to notice that. And sometimes it's helpful to move around and shake your legs after doing that kind of tapping, and or doing some yoga to open up the legs and the stretch your tush, because the soft tissue in our body holds memory. And the soft tissue is our emotional response to what's happening internally, let alone externally when something comes at us. It's happening. And every time we tell ourselves a story about something, it happens again. So to start to notice with this whole mothering conversation we had today is what's happening in my body that I can kind of lean into and feel into around mothering myself. And you might also be around mothering others.
Right.
So be open to where the contraction might be felt, and like we said, giving it some compassion and grace.
Yeah.
Because we are all a work in progress.
Yeah.
While we're here. And the whole idea, and we were talking about this before we started, Marty, of this podcast, is to offer resources for that process.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And yeah, there's all different kinds, and we're offering you what we have. And yeah, and it is a process of learning. So,
oh my goodness, right? Yeah. Yeah. And to all you young mothers out there, or mothers at all, it's a journey. Lifelong.
It is. Be patient.
Yes.
Give yourself some grace.
Yeah.
And yeah. And rest.
Yes. Yes.
And rest. So thank you everyone for being part of this conversation today. We'll probably bring in one more conversation around new mothering.
Absolutely.
I think it would be helpful. And also, because what that makes me think of is postpartum depression.
Oh, right.
Which I certainly had. And so another conversation around mothering.
Yeah.
But this specifically is for anyone who's had a mother, and to be patient with the process of healing and how that should or shouldn't look.
Right. I love it.
Yeah. So thank you, Marty, and we'll
thank you, Christy.
Pick up on this conversation again next time.
Yeah, next time. All right. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.